Welcome. I am so excited to bring to you our next guest, who needs no introduction to many of you. You probably have heard of her and know her already. Eileen McKusick is joining us today to explore electric health. For those of you who haven't met Eileen before, let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a researcher. She's a two-time author. She just published a book on electric health, and her first book, Tuning the Human Biofield, won many awards, including the Nautilus Award. She is a healing practitioner, or you can say healing facilitator, who has been exploring the biofield through sound for over 2 decades. Many of you know that she is a regular faculty on the Shift Network, and she's also a collaborator with us at the Consciousness and Healing Initiative on research, exploring the biofield and exploring healing at a distance. Eileen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Shamini, I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks so much. There's so much wonderful stuff going on in our world, and there's also some turmoil going on in our world. And you and I are both absolutely passionate about this area that we call the biofield. And Eileen, you have been exploring the biofield in many different ways over the many, many different years, including from a science point of view, right? And doing your own research, doing your research as a practitioner. So you've been exploring this both from an experiential point of view and academically. And I'm curious, I know for me why I find the biofield so exciting in this day and time when we're just learning about our own agency more and more in healing. How do you see it? Why are you so passionate about this area of biofields and biofield science?
Efficiency. Before I really committed to healing, I owned a restaurant that was a very busy restaurant. And I discovered that I really love being efficient. And I've kind of always been that way. I'm always like the first person in line at the buffet, when a buffet opens up, because I don't want to waste time waiting, way back in the line. And I just observed that this way of approaching health by working with the biofield was really efficient and helping with so many different things. And so for me, when I discovered that there was this sort of elegant backdoor way into treating what ails us, through the biofield, specifically through sound and the biofield, I felt a really strong obligation to both understand it, not just from an experiential perspective, but in a scientific way. Because working with energy fields is historically considered pseudoscience. And what I found working with my clients was that they were experiencing the kind of relief that people are looking for. And it was totally non-invasive. It happened pretty quickly, effectively, efficiently. And I felt an obligation to bring that out into the world. A lot of people suffer, and I grew up with parents who suffered, and have witnessed people not finding solutions and how painful that is. So and then the biofield was such an exciting thing for me to discover. When I finally came across the word biofield, actually my whole life changed. And then I found some of your studies, Shamini, which I cited in my master's thesis that I wrote in 2012. And we've been kind of collaborating in this field ever since then.
That's right. And you have been a huge advocate for helping people understand why the biofield is such an efficient pathway for us to take agency on our own health. Tell us a little bit about what you've discovered as a practitioner. You developed a method that you call biofield tuning, right? That uses sound to sort of detect shifts in the biofield and almost relate those to programming. As an aside, I was just chatting with Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is part of the summit, and we spoke for a long time about programs, and he was really sharing how these programs, are instilled in us at a very young age. It's the subconscious mind. Yeah. And so you've been uncovering these too in your practice, and you've also explored ways to efficiently clear those programs. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, that agency word I think is a really key word here, because it's really, I have discovered that we are full of programs. The hardware of the human body is astonishing. It is brilliant and self-repairing and has orders of intelligence way beyond the lousy software we've been programmed with. We're only experiencing a fraction of our capacity due to the limited amount of information, and a lot of it is garbage and false. So we're fed a lot of noise. We're exposed to a lot of information that is incoherent, and it creates an experience of like you're missing out on the juice and the authenticity of what it really means to be human. And in agency, we start to realize where our bad programming is, and delete it and actually reprogram it from a more conscious, conscientious, intentional, empowered way. We start to become aware when we're telling ourselves stories of victimhood or spinning out in some pattern. And when you recognize it in the context of your biofield, of your body's electrical system, and you understand that, wow, my electrical system, my biofield is my conscious mind, it's my subconscious mind, it's full of patterns and rhythms and programs. And even like the absence of programs, there's brainwashing. I did a group session on the brain once and discovered that the whole part of the signal off the right hemisphere of the brain had like no signal. When you think about that, that's the feminine, the feeling, the intuitive, the knowing, the artistic, the sensual, the caring, the compassion, all of these sort of female attributes that have been minimalized in our current culture are also really not even present in the collective brain. So the term brainwashing really is, there's as much signal jamming going on as there is bad programming. So I would just add to Bruce Lipton's that, because in my explorations of the biofield in individuals, and especially in the collective, because I work with group holograms of superimposed biofields, many, sometimes thousands of them, there's certain natural harmonies and frequencies in our environment that we've been disconnected from. And so instead of us experiencing an awareness of our own electrical nature and our connection to the electrical environment around us, really unity consciousness, there have been signal jammers put in place that stop people from having that experience.
That's pretty heavy. And so,
Yeah.
one of the questions is, Bruce has his own method for exploring how we deprogram ourselves. How are you approaching this from, the biofield tuning point of view? And again, why do you feel like this is maybe a more efficient process than some of the ways that we've been taught to deprogram and clear out signal jams?
Well, I really come to see the biofield as our memory bank. So if you think about this, like every single impression we receive in life is translated by the body as an electromagnetic signal. Everything we experience is really registers as an electromagnetic signal. So it would make sense that it's our electric body, our electromagnetic system, that houses all of our memories, all of our experiences, all of our impressions, all of our programs, basically. And what I've discovered is that you can use a tuning fork like a needle on an album to read the record of the body's electrical system, that it's all encoded in standing waves within the biofield, a biofield being a toroidal structure that has a double layer membrane that traps standing waves. So this field extends about 6 feet around us and has this membrane. And within that, this is our electric body, basically. Our bodies are electric. We all know that. Anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. It's a basic law of physics. And it would make sense that this information is encoded electromagnetically in these standing waves. And so my research has been to explore the biofield and discover that it has an anatomy and a physiology, and that different memories reside in different places. And so if you come up with a particular traumatic memory, I can pinpoint exactly where that memory is stored in your field. And if I stick a fork in it, the fork is actually going to sound dissonant. It's going to interact with those waves. And in that intersection of information is the story. is the tone, the timbre, the rhythm, the feeling of that experience. And so what's so cool about the body is that when you hold a fork in an atonal memory and the body hears its own noise, the body is designed to be in harmony. And it doesn't want to hear noise in its signal. And the body will use that coherent input, that information feedback loop to tune itself, to bring itself in tune. And the more you experience tuning, the more in tune your instrument becomes, which is basically getting the noise and the resistance out of the whole electromagnetic system. That way, information and energy flows freely instead of being impeded in areas of inflammation, tangles, knots, which turns into drama and stress and disease over time. So, working in the electrical system is the blueprint from the body. And again, a basic science thing is that magnetic fields guide electric currents. So if somebody has pain in a particular part of their body, they have inflammation, that's a traffic jam of electric energy. You can find that traffic jam in the magnetic field, manipulate it in the magnetic field with sound, because amazingly, a tuning fork becomes like a magnet. And so when you shift the flow of energy in the magnetic field, it shifts it in the electric current. That traffic jam gets broken up and the energy gets sent into circulation, and suddenly there's no pain anymore.
It's so interesting because, as you know, so many different biofield healers would say it very similarly, although many of them are using their hands, right? And so, those of us who practice can feel that. And there are particular practices and protocols that are called, for example, magnetic passes, where there's literally moving and feeling that magnetism and driving down the body. And some people, may even remember that Mesmer, who is sometimes credited as being the father of hypnosis, was actually an energy healer, and he was doing magnetic passes over the body. And later, this was called hypnosis, right? But so there was this understanding of what he called animal magnetism, and he related it much as you do, Eileen, to this isn't just in the body. This is actually, he called it, basically a force, a particular force that exists in the universe. So this is also very interesting. I want to highlight that you described the biofield in the way that you did, in a very particular way. And those of us who have been exploring the biofield know that, Eileen, you and I disagree all the time on what we think the word biofield means and what all it encompasses. And this is what's so wonderful about the term. We're just exploring. We can explore the biofield of a cell, the biofield of the person, the biofield of the earth, the universe, right? We can explore all of these different aspects of the biofield. We can talk about it in terms of electromagnetism, and we can talk about it in terms of subtle energy, which we still can't quite measure completely through electromagnetic means at this moment. So it's a very ripe field for discovery. But what's interesting is that you're discovering, as many healing practitioners have, that you can work directly with this, whatever we call it, however we define it, however we can measure it and not measure it. There is something that you can detect as a human being who's been working with the biofield for so many years to create what's sounding like, to me, what I hear is a super efficient healing response, kind of bringing people back to that initial hardware program that you described, right? That self-healing, that salutogenic process that exists within us to help the body heal itself.
Yeah, factory settings, that's what I call it. Get you back to your factory settings. Because the body knows what harmony and homeostasis is, the dynamic harmony of our factory settings, where everything has its right rhythm. People talk about, like, what are the frequencies of the organs? Like, I'm more interested in what's the rhythm of the organ. It's not just about frequency. People get really limited in that. And it's not even just about the rhythm of the organ, but like, how's it jiving with all the other organs?
Yeah.
Are you making music? Are you groovy? Or are you like sharp here and flat there and stuck here and and not making any sound in that pipe at all? That's how most people are. Most people are like damaged organs. The pipes are all stuck and rusted, and cleaning the electric aspect of us and getting it smooth and clear. The body just follows. The body just follows. It's the primary, it's the part of our being that determines whether we're alive or dead, basically. When you're alive, your light is on. That EKG's got that rhythm of life going. Well, oh, the mysterious life force? Come on, it's electricity. Your heart stops, they jump start it with the same electricity from the wall. It's your light, and it's the same light as the sunlight and the starlight and northern lights and lightning bugs. It's electricity, it's ubiquitous. And we say we don't know, we don't understand subtle energy. Like, I think that's all part of the brainwashing nonsense. Like, the it's not just like what we can measure. Like, you can't measure water vapor with a measuring cup, but we're not going to say it doesn't exist. It's
Hmm.
just a higher, finer, more diffused form of water. We're measuring the water part of electricity and then saying, oh, we don't understand that subtle stuff. Like, that's nonsense. Like, I think that there's a whole lot of unnecessary weirdness around the labeling of working with the body's electrical system as pseudoscience. The
Yeah.
body has an electrical system. Human beings have electromagnetic. We are, of course, we can move energy around. Of course, we have a magnetic field. Like, why are we even debating this?
So this is a key point, right? Because what a lot of people say is, okay, you guys keep using the word energy and energy medicine, but the definition of energy is that it dissipates over distance. And so let's talk about that a little bit, because I know that you are again bringing to light this understanding of something that we have almost forgotten. And I say almost because I don't think we have completely forgotten it, thank goodness. But this other aspect that has always existed in the scientific framework, but has been kind of overlooked and swept under the rug for some time, to help us understand things like distant healing. So perhaps we shouldn't be using the term energy. As you know, our group loves to debate about whether we should be calling this information healing or information medicine versus energy medicine,
Mhm.
whatever. The question might be, let's talk about the study that we're doing with you. For example, we just conducted a feasibility study, right? A small feasibility study to explore the real world relevance of the kind of healing that you and so many of your practitioners that you've trained do. And here we're sitting in the pandemic. People can't even necessarily see their families or friends, let alone go and get a healing treatment. And so we explored, right? What could we do? Could we actually follow what you all are doing in your regular practice, which is to provide biofield tuning healing sessions for anxiety during COVID? So we did that, right? We followed these guys, and we just conducted the first feasibility study, you all, and it looks really super promising already. The upshot is, and we'll be publishing this soon, so you'll see the paper. But um, first of all, it was successful. We could do it. We could actually follow people over time. We collected data on their self-report, that is their anxiety, their well-being. We also did qualitative interviews with these 15 people who met clinical thresholds, you all, for anxiety. That means that if they went to a doctor's office and they were given the standard assessments that are given to determine whether they have clinical levels of anxiety, they would have met criteria. So we're talking about some pretty significant levels of anxiety, which unfortunately is pretty resonant with a great number of the population. So if you're suffering from anxiety, first of all, you're not alone. And we're looking for solutions on how to do that efficiently, right? How do we relieve anxiety efficiently? So Eileen, we're really pleased to do this study with you. And initially, I think I can share, we one of the other things we did is we looked at people's experiences in their own words. And we wanted to make sure that they weren't just speaking from just getting off of the healing table, so to speak. So Eileen and several of her practitioners delivered 3 biofield tuning sessions over 3 weeks. And during each of those weeks, not during the days they got sessions, but on other days, we asked them to just sort of record, using HIPAA compliant methods, just record how their day was. So it wasn't necessarily with them just getting off the table or talking about what just happened in the healing, because we know everyone usually feels amazing once they have a healing, but just how their day was over these period of weeks. And we noticed a significant decrease in the use of negative mood language. That is, they were less likely to use words associated with negative mood, including anxiety, depression, things like that, over time. And we're looking at the other data, including the qualitative and some of the self report data. Now, we'll be reporting that really soon. But what really struck me, Eileen, is first of all, we had literally hundreds of people who wanted to be part of this study. Right. And my coordinator, herself said, Shamini, there's so much need. I mean, she got really emotional about it. She said there's so much need for this. And we had an incredible retention rate. That is that, people really wanted to stay in it. They were obviously getting value and this is important because a lot of times in psychological research and in behavioral medicine research, where we're studying things like exercise and cognitive behavioral therapy and other things that we do for anxiety, people drop out. So it speaks to what you're saying about efficiency, and we can't wait to report on all of the data. But Eileen, from your perspective, you and your practitioners had some really beautiful things, some beautiful observations that you noticed as being part of the study and doing these healings. And I'm just wondering if you'd want to share, in general, whether with the study or in general, when we're working with real world issues
Hmm.
for healing ourselves, right? What
Yeah.
what are you noticing that is really coming up for people, and what kinds of advice might you be able to give to folks who are struggling with mental health issues right now?
It was an interesting study for me to participate in, Shamini, because I haven't really had a practice since 2017. And I became busy teaching and then running an operation and just couldn't really fit in seeing clients. So this was the first time in over 3 years when I worked with three people once a week for 3 weeks. And it reminded me why I love the work so much, because it's such a wonderful opportunity to really see who people are. It's like bouncing sound into somebody's soul and listening to the ping back. And yeah, I can hear the noise, I can hear the traumas, I can feel the anxiety, the fears, the stories, the bad programming. But I can also hear and see the beauty and harmony underneath in the factory settings. And when I did those 3 volunteers, I really came to see it in sort of a whole new way, and sort of looking at the field in my mind's eye and seeing this sort of golden radiance that comes from within, from our own central sun and through our own central channel, and the joyful, illuminated aliveness that is the essence of who we are. And that all of these other things sit on top of that as noise in the signal. And when people have a lot of noise in their signal, that's all they can self refer to. They don't get to have the experience of what their true nature really is, because it's obscured by all of these difficult inputs and basically bad vibes that are really just distortions on top of the beautiful truth that's underneath. And I've seen that beautiful, harmonious, amazing truth in every single person I've ever worked with. And the only thing that's getting in the way of their experience of that is waves in space that are distorted. Like, it's not even true. So, seeing into people's souls and reflecting back to them how beautiful they are and the ways that they're beautiful. Like, one of my volunteers was an angel. She was just an angel through and through. And when I told her that, she said, I knew that. She said,
Mm.
I know that. She said, I wondered if I had to die to like come back and be my angel self. I'm like, no, you just need to wake up to it in this lifetime, that that's who you are. And then in another one of my volunteers, I saw this big angel with him. And I told him that. And this is just sonic input, impressions, things that show up in my mind's eye. This person had been an EMT, and he had multiple people tell him that they saw this big angel with him. So it's really validating to people, because you know what? Everybody knows their own greatness and beauty in their hearts. I've never reflected somebody's amazing beauty back to them and had them be like, I don't know what you're talking about. They always say, yeah, that's true. I know that. I'm like, yeah, you do. So for everybody who's listening, you know your beautiful, amazing self. And the more you allow yourself to rest in the awareness of that, it's just, we're all that way. You're not anybody special. Like, we're all amazing. We're all beautiful. We're all radiant, joyful drops of sunshine in our little electric bodies here. And that's just the truth. And the more you can believe in that and experience that and radiate that from the inside out, push your good vibe out against those heavy, noisy things, clarity, coherence, strength, vitality, radiance. Everybody has that in them. You just have to believe in it and feed it.
That's so beautiful, Eileen. And I could just feel it in my heart as you were just sharing what that experience is like to witness that greatness in a person when you're working with them. And I just want to highlight again why this is so important, what you just said, because sometimes in psychology, because we often focus on things like the conscious mind and the subconscious mind and the deprogramming and all of these things and in the victimhood and all of the release, release, release. We forget what are we releasing from and where are we going? And so it's just as efficient, maybe, as a way to say, oh, all of that. Okay, great. Okay, so let's just go beyond the noise for a minute. Let that go. Let that be what it is and come back to our true nature, which is perfection, which is beauty, which is love, which is, unlimited energy, Sat Chit Anand, however you want to describe it, right? And so, as a healing practitioner, you're standing in witness to that and you're sharing that with people. And that's part of the power of these biofield approaches to bring people to experience that. If I might say so, I think that yes, you're telling them, but they're also having that experience, right? Because you're bringing them to that experience through the biofield work. Would you say that's an accurate assessment of?
Absolutely. We reduce it's the noise, the signal to noise ratio. You get the noise out, then the signal comes through, and people are like, oh, that's who I really am. Like, phew, thank goodness,
I love that. So let's chat for a minute about some of these wonderful ways that you're also, as a teacher, leading people to experience their inner harmony. You mentioned it's not just about vibration and this idea of vibrating high versus vibrating low. I know you have things to say about that. There's voltage, there's harmony, there's resonance, there's coherence. There are all of these different aspects, and I dare say, one of the another point of convergence between us that I just absolutely love is that we both love to sing, we both love to make sound, and we've both noticed, both from the inner and the outer worlds, how powerful sound can be as a healer. Myself, just kind of always having loved to sing since I was young, I think I learned that singing was a natural way for me to reconnect with my spirit. And it brought me joy. And I remember, even as a child singing around the house and how much joy it would bring me, even when things around me felt really chaotic. And I know that you and I share that, right? That love for singing. And as you know, Eileen, you know this from the teaching that you've done, I'm sure, and I get this all the time. I can't sing. I'm tone deaf. I don't have a voice. I don't know how to do this or whatever. So, can you share with us your perspectives on this inner sound making as well as working with the biofilm from the outside in, the inside out, and why you're so passionate about that these days?
Well, boy, Shamini, you gave me a lot to unpack there. I really do think that I just want to ask viewers right now, raise your hand really high if you love your singing voice. Ooh, me. Like, how many people do you think did that, Shamini?
Very few.
Very few.
Except for the divas, except for the lead singer divas in the room, the ones that have what we call LSD, lead singer disease.
Very
Most don't.
no. And that's really too bad because in my experience, our voice is one of the greatest joys that we can experience. And not only that, not only joy and radiance, because you can absolutely have that experience with your voice, but we speak the world into being. And I was talking to my friend Lauren the other day about how when you use your voice more expressively, you're more pleasing to the gods of manifestation. If you go through your life talking like this and saying, I really want this and that, like, it's really different than being, ooh, I would like one of these and one of those. And there's a magic in the life that we can create and play with our voices. And you can massage your body, from the inside out. I've been doing this creating this program called Sing the Body Electric with the brothers Corin. And we've come up with all these different exercises for using the voice to get to move energy in very specific ways, in very specific areas of the body, and related to generating the movement of very specific emotions. And it's an incredibly powerful experience of using the voice as a healing instrument from the inside out. It's free, it's fun, and there's no end of places you can practice, and it's good for your health. So, and I challenge everybody to set out to believe that if you can talk, you can sing, and if you can walk, you can dance. And as humans, we are instruments. Like, there's nothing more important than our voices in our experience of our lives. And most people are missing all the fun. They really are. It's fun, and it's good for you. So why do you want to tell yourself self-limiting stories? And I'll tell you what, I mean, just for those of you who are saying, oh, I'm tone deaf, whatever. Well, I was too. Okay. I started taking voice lessons when I was 20. I had 7 voice teachers over the course of 7 years. The first 5 told me that I was tone deaf. They're like, "You're tone deaf and you can't carry a tune. Like, you better just give up now." And I was like, "No, I'm human and it's my birthright to be able to sing. And I am not gonna." I'm like, "You're a bad teacher." Like, next.
Good for you.
And so it actually took decades for me to overcome a lot of the issues, not only around, singing on key, like hearing properly and reflecting that back properly, but feeling comfortable enough to sing in front of other people. I was terrified, like irrationally terrified, like Slade and like hundreds of Last Lives for singing in front of people, kind of terrified. And took a lot of work for me, a lot of biofield tuning, a lot of clearing, a lot of all kinds of stuff, to get to the point, where it's like, oh, that's no big deal anymore, and it's fine. And I finally feel free. I feel free not only with my voice, but also with my body. Because for me, that's been another part of the healing. People often ask me, like, well, how do you get into healing, whatever. And the truth is I just want to look good in a bikini. I mean, it really is the truth. Well, I don't say that very often. I can say that to you, Shamini.
Hey, thank you for your honesty and authenticity. I think most of us would like to look good in a bikini. I think
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm brave enough to say I would want to wear a bikini anymore these days, but would we be lying if we said that we didn't want to enjoy the way our body looks?
Yeah, I mean, who wants to sing in front of a whole bunch of people in a bikini? Like, honestly, I would right now. That's an incredible degree of freedom, and it's come from cleaning my biofields. So,
Oh my gosh, I love that visual. We should all sing in bikinis. We really should. I mean, that would be amazingly healing, preferably on a wonderful warm beach with clean water and
yeah,
lovely friends like you, Eileen. Thank you so much. I just want to recap some of the wisdom that you shared with us, and I'm not sure if I'll catch it all, so please add to it if I've forgotten anything. First of all, your perception and your understanding that one of the reasons you're so passionate about the biofield and biofield science is because it's leading us to a more efficient way of exploring that deep healing capacity that we all have, whether we call it salutogenesis, our core system, our true hardware. There are many different ways of kind of describing what this is, but that by working with the biofield with sound, both inner and outer sound, we can not only clear programming, but we can come back to that beautiful essential nature that we all have. And I think what you're also doing is encouraging us. Yes, we can learn about biofield tuning. I know many folks already know about some of the wonderful courses and the work that you do, the training that you do, and we want to make sure if you don't know about it, definitely check it out. Biofieldtuning.com, right? And there's also electrichealth.com, which is this amazing website that Eileen has just put together that you have to check out. But also, you can start with your own voice, right? You can start with tuning from the inside out and exploring the voice in terms of how we express ourselves, express emotions, and tune together and begin to harmonize within our bodies as a really effective self-healing tool, right?
yeah, yeah. And then once we achieve inner harmony, outer harmony is a lot easier too.
Yes, it starts with us. It starts
Mhm.
with us. Oh, Eileen, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I know how incredibly busy you are, and we are so super grateful that you've chosen to spend the hour with us and share some of your wisdom and your insights on the science of healing with us today.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure, Shamini. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.